Once a luxury service, nail salons have become nearly ubiquitous in NYC, so much so that we have more nail salons than Starbucks locations. You might assume that the quantity of salons is the reason for the extremely low prices, but other more disturbing causes are at play here. Nail salon workers are being systematically exploited through illegal wage discrimination, exposed to hazardous cancer-causing chemicals, and subjected to an ethnic caste system that preys upon their immigration status, language barriers, and limited economic power.
All this was recently brought to life in the New York Times, exhaustively reported by Sarah Maslin-Neer. With us to respond to and expand on her articles are Luna Ranjit, the co-founder and executive director of Adhikar, which works with the Nepali immigrant community. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And Charlene Obernauer, executive director of New York Committee for Occupational Safety and Health. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Dedicated to improving health and safety conditions in the workplace. And finally, Tricia Lee, the owner of Polish Bar in Brooklyn in Clinton Hill. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
So this is a very interesting topic that was highlighted in the New York Times as we mentioned. But Luna, can you give us an overview of the issues that you've been finding here?
So we've been working with Nepali-speaking nail salon workers for quite a while now, and we, in 2011, we started a research project to document some of the key challenges, and what we found were that people were having health problems. Nepalis are among the newer immigrants in this field, so we found at that time the health challenges were more like rashes and itches, and people were having headaches, and some people were having to leave the jobs altogether, and others were just doing starting to take it as part of doing business. And in addition to that, one of the other major complaints was not getting to eat lunch on time, or not getting breaks, and working really long hours in the summer, and then not having enough hours in the winter, and therefore not enough tips.
Right.
Now, I have to ask, why is all this sort of coming to a head now? The industry has been in New York for many, many decades, and many different, Asian newspapers and articles have been written about this practice and industry. But it's only now that we're sort of hearing about it on a large-term scale in New York City. So what is the catalyst for this?
I think there has been more interest paid to nail salons around the country as well. There are cities in Boston, in California, in Seattle, that's addressing these issues. And here in New York, we've been talking about it, and also starting to organize. Last year, Adhikar and NYCOSH together created the New York Healthy Nail Salon Coalition, and we've been working with city council members, elected officials, as well as nail salon workers to try and figure out some of the solutions. I think it was building up to that, and then the New York Times article definitely brought it to the much larger audience.
Okay.
Before we go across the table, one of the things they talked about in the article was just so sort of eye-opening was the fact that there's training fee associated with these salon workers. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, there are two kinds of training fees. One is at the beauty schools, so where they do have to pay to get the license. You have to complete 250 hours of work, and so and there's that training fee. And oftentimes, what's done illegally is that new workers are hired as trainees, and they're made to pay for the training. Or what we've seen more commonly is that they're just not paid for that training period.
Yeah, I think in the article, the person, didn't start to get paid for 3 months. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Tricia, we're coming across the table. You're a nail salon entrepreneur, blogger. Can you tell us, sort of your stance on this, on the industry, and your article, 7 Reasons Why You Should Absolutely Avoid a $7 Manicure. Can you tell us a little bit about, what you go through in that article?
Right. I was actually pleased with the New York Times article, and prior to that conversation, obviously, our council member, our previous council member and now public advocate Tish James had actually been doing quite a lot of work with nail salons, and she'd published some materials at the end of last year that were really helpful for salons. So this isn't a new conversation. It's just a deep, dark, dirty, ugly secret in our industry that the consumer is not educated on. So I felt that I wanted to speak to my client base and say, well, this is exactly why we do what we do, and this is exactly why you should patronize, if not Polish Bar, businesses that run their business this way. Because there's all of this focus on nail salons because what's been hotter than nails in the last 3 or 4 years in beauty? It's just so, of course, now the light is on us, and so when the light is on us, we get a little bit more attention. Yeah, so we weren't going to have all of this wonderful nail trend, and it's the hottest thing. It's like the most popular thing being shot on Instagram without someone actually finally looking at our industry and saying, well, what's really going on there? I welcome all of this. I think that it's great as a salon owner because for me, the consumers become accustomed to so many practices that lead to the $7 manicure, that lead to someone not getting a proper lunch hour, that lead to spinning in at 8 o'clock when a salon closes and you want a bikini wax manicure, pedicure, eyebrows. That's not possible when a staff member gets off at 8 o'clock. But I personally have been yelped and complained because we can't take a last-minute walk-in because we have closing hours, because our staff clocks out between 8 and 8:15 mandatory.
Right.
So I wanted to really speak for my business, and I wanted to speak to my consumer, and it just got picked up because it was like, okay, this is another side of the conversation. But it's challenging for salon owners like me, and I never wanted to say I'm doing it the right way. What I wanted to say is, well, this is how I do it, and this is the criticism I get for doing it this way.
Right.
Like my staff does clock in. They do get lunch hours. They do get breaks. They do get paid properly. They do get paid hourly. They get paid more than minimum wage, and they do that because we have to charge more than $6 for a manicure.
Right.
We live in New York. This is the most expensive city in the country to live in, but yet we offer the cheapest service in manicure and pedicure services. How is that?
It was such a great article and just how you framed everything as well. So
Thank you.
Okay.
And Charlene, tell us about your work in the coalition.
Absolutely. So we've been working with Adhikar for a little over a year and with the public advocate, Letitia James, to address some of the issues in nail salons. Of course, we come at it from a worker health as well as public health issue. What are the kinds of toxins that workers can be exposed to, that the general public can be exposed to, and how can we make that situation better for not only the workers in the salons and the owners, actually, because the owners are usually in the salons, but for the consumers themselves. So when you look at what are nail salons doing, unfortunately, a lot of salons are still utilizing toxic chemicals, toxic products like formaldehyde, like toluene, like dibutyl phthalates, which can have serious ramifications for the workers themselves as well as for the consumers. So we're really looking at what are the issues at hand, what are workers exposed to, but then what are some of the other issues that do have implications on safety and health, like not having access to breaks, not having access to not only to have lunch, but also to have lunch, not over your desk where you're like eating with the same toxins that you're utilizing on people's nails. And we mentioned the $7 manicure. Well, I was at a salon once where there was advertised $7 manicure for kids. So that's another part of the story where you have cheaper manicures being advertised for children, and then those children, of course, anyone who has kids or has kids in their lives knows kids are always chewing their nails, they're ripping off their nail polish, they're swallowing it, and these are really toxic chemicals that are getting into people's bodies. So it's a matter of this whole issue being highlighted. It's being highlighted, of course, on the worker side and on what workers are both going through and how workers are advocating for themselves, but it's also being highlighted on the consumer side. And I think, as we're looking at this issue, there are salons that are a part of the conversation that are saying, we have been charging a little bit more. And the question continues to arise is, why are people still thinking that it's okay to have a $10 manicure? And how are we changing that conversation? When you look at the beauty industry overall, the whole beauty enhancement industry has been increasing tremendously over the past several decades. Right. We see more of an investment in this industry than almost any other industry in New York City. So how are we making sure that we're not looking at 1990 nail salon prices, and as consumers we're starting to take more responsibility and starting to say, what, this is what not only what I'm willing to pay, but these are the conditions that need to be respected in the workplace.
Right.
And I think that's the exciting part of the conversation.
But I think the consumer is very accustomed to. I've seen $18 mani-pedis, and at my salon the price is double that. For a basic manicure pedicure. The service is an hour and it's timed. It's timed whether it should be shorter than that or not. There's still conversation with my staff if they speed through the service as much as if they take too long, because it takes an hour to do a proper service on manicure pedicure. However, when you have a client that comes into a salon that is accustomed to the other side, they want a robe, slippers, and champagne glasses if they're paying $36. So the consumer needs to understand what it is they're paying for, because you may come to Polish Bar and you may see that you're getting a basic service for $36, but what you're not seeing is the fact that your tools are brand new, that you're walking out with your tools, that you have implements that have been sanitized properly, that there's 3 free and 5 free nail polishes being used. Those our expenses to make sure that it's being done. And it's not, I never try to say like we're this perfect nail salon. We're actually just doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Right. I mean, so many people are not doing what you're doing.
Right.
You know, a friend of mine said to me,
It's
you should
hard to tell
never
the
go to a
consumer
place where
when
you don't have
it's
your
right,
own
though.
individual, you know, kit, because imagine
They
how
walk
many
out
people.
and they're like, thank you so much. I'm like, it's not a gift.
Like you're kind of paying for it.
Yeah.
So what sort of red flags should we be looking at as consumers when you walk into a nail salon?
Absolutely. Well, I think that there are a lot of red flags. It's hard to always tell, though, what's going on, you know, beneath the surface. You know, people have been saying, oh, you have to talk to the nail salon worker, you have to ask them. Well, Luna could speak better to this, but nail salon workers aren't always going to tell you this is how I'm being treated in the
Yeah,
salon.
totally.
I noticed that immediately too in my salon. People were like doing little investigations. I'm like, really?
Well, also in the article, they talked about how they were constantly being video monitored as well, so they can't necessarily just speak how they would.
With or without video monitoring, it's often the salon owner or a manager is in the room, right?
Right. So they would step in,
Exactly.
probably,
Like, you know, how, like, either the workers are too afraid to tell the truth, or if they tell the truth, they may lose their jobs. So it's like, it's actually like wanting to do good, but putting people in harm's way. So.
If I can back up just a few, can you tell us a little bit about the racial disparities in hiring and wage prices in the industry as well?
So we work primarily with the Nepali-speaking community, which is new, and also because the licensing exams not available in our language, a lot of our members are not licensed. So as a result, and like, you know, it's not like, you know, you're not supposed to be working if you're not licensed, but because of the growth industry, people are getting hired, but then discriminated against because of that. And right now, because of the focus on like the nail salons, again, the same group of people are being threatened with like losing their jobs, or people's hours are, because the government is saying like they're gonna look into this industry more, so unlicensed workers' hours are being shifted. They're like, you can only work evening hours and weekends.
So is this a good thing
so
or a
they
bad
can't be
thing when we sort of shine this, you know, spotlight, if you will, on the industry? You know, people who are here illegally,
Right.
you know,
Trying to get
how do
a
they sort of
job and
navigate
living.
I
that?
think it can be a good thing. I think it can be a good thing when the organizations and the salons are working together. I think if it's a situation where people feel threatened, be it salon owners or employees, it's not going to be effective. It has to be something where, I mean, the other day I saw that there was a workshop that was being offered. Like, it has to be where you're educating salon owners. It's fine to penalize the salon owners that are running their business wrong, but these are still women. Like, every woman that works for me, if I'm providing jobs, I'm providing jobs in heads of households most of the time. So these are women that, be it they may be in a situation where they're not getting proper labor laws, they're still keeping their lights on with these jobs. These tips are paying for their clothes and their food and taking care of their families. So it's only going to work, in my opinion, if the organizations are working with the businesses and helping us to educate. Like, even speaking to Charlene outside, I said, oh, let me have your card. I didn't even know that you existed. That's great. How is it that I've been in business for 9 years and I've never heard of her organization? The information isn't really readily out there. And I consider myself to be a very savvy business owner, and I think anybody that knows me would say that, so how am I not aware? So I think that's where this conversation is leading to bridging the gap between salon owners and the organizations that are here to help us, because there is a lot of education out there. I mean, just in the last couple of weeks, I've learned more about my business, I think, just from this highlight, you know? And so we need to know what's out there. We need to be able to work with the organizations and do better. I think the consumer is going to have to decide what's a good purchase for her.
Right. Do you feel like your approach to...
Let's be clear.
Yes, we know you get your nails done. So do you feel like your approach to your business model is unique in the world
When I
of nail
opened, it
salons?
was unheard of, and I was criticized every single hour of the day. When I
Because
was
it
in
was
my
more
business.
expensive and...
Are you?
or-
Yeah. Like, are
Right.
you kidding me? And what
Right.
are you?
I'm not gonna pay
Yeah.
you
It
for-
was
yeah.
like they just didn't understand. I'm like, well, wait. Look at your polish pack. Look at your, like, you know. It was just
Yeah,
nothing. I
yeah.
mean, we didn't scrape the feet, which we shouldn't. We're not podiatrists. We're not supposed to be cutting the skin off the back of your feet and cutting calluses. We still get ripped for that. We still get ripped for that, especially now when everyone has a critic and they can have a voice as far as what
Yes,
they didn't
yeah.
like. Sometimes you're criticizing something when you're not really educated on what's right. We cannot perform podiatry services, so we don't. But if you're accustomed to that and that's all you know every time you go into a salon in New York, you're going to tear a polished bar apart. So for me, it's like, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I studied. I don't do nails. I didn't do nails. I came from a straight beauty background. So what I studied and learned about what I'm supposed to be doing in the city of New York to run my business legally is what I'm trying to do. But a part of that conversation is I've spent the last 9 years trying to educate consumers on, no, that's not right. I understand you're accustomed to it, but that's not the way it's supposed to be.
You are such a gem, and we are so lucky to have you. And as well, there's so much more oversight that needs to come to the industry as well, and information that needs to be distributed. So we want to thank all of you for joining us here today.
One of the things that we're doing to educate the customers and the salon workers is we created this multilingual poster that we're distributing, and it's in 5 different languages. And we're the way we did it is to bring in both the consumer piece and worker piece together to say that it actually affects both groups. And it of course affects the workers more because they are in the salon all day long, and there are things that the workers can do and the things that the customers should be. So this was the education piece that we'd been working on, and hopefully that we can share more, and that educating the customers,
I think,
for
us, I mean,
is an important
piece. This kind of information has never been available.
It's a new day.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.